we humans use a GPS to go from point A to point B, but marine animals don't really have that option. They can't really use a GPS to navigate. So instead, what they do is they use the Earth's magnetic field. It basically helps them show which way is north. And this type of migration, magnetic field migration, is pretty common among marine animals, such as salmon or loggerhead sea turtles use these on a constant basis to navigate. And to this day, there has been some evidence of sharks and their relatives being able to use it as well, or at least detect it. Some studies show that sharks and their relatives have been trained to detect and react to the magnetic field and its changes. But until now, there has been no proof of sharks being able to use the magnetic field to migrate across the ocean. And this is a very important question to ask and understand because sharks go through these long migration across the ocean and they return to the same site each and every time. So, in a study, scientists used bonnethead sharks, which are basically a smaller version of a hammerhead shark. But what's important with these sharks is that they show site fidelity, meaning that they return to the same site every single time. So to test whether if these sharks in fact use the magnetic field uh, to migrate, what they did was they used a merit coil system, which is a cool looking system that helps the scientists replicate and change the magnetic field within that system. So the scientists can use a magnetic field found somewhere else on the planet and replicate it within that system itself. So the scientists exposed these sharks to three different types of magnetic field. The first one being where they were captured, the second one 600 kilometers north of that location, which puts them in somewhere middle of US, and the third one is 600 kilometers south of that location. And the scientists predicted that if the sharks in fact use the magnetic field, then they will be able to orient themselves northwards when they were exposed to the southern magnetic field. So, what did they exactly find? Well, when the sharks were exposed to the same magnetic field as the location that they were captured in, they didn't really show any preference. And this is because the sharks already think that they're home, so they don't really need to go anywhere. The second one being 600 kilometers north of that location, and they didn't show any preference there either. And this is because this magnetic field they would have never experienced before because it's in the middle of the US. But what's really cool is that when they were exposed to the southern magnetic field, most of the shark oriented themselves northwards, which is basically the direction of their home. So, what does this all mean? Well, this study shows that these sharks can, in fact, detect and use the magnetic field to navigate back home. And it also shows how important it is to not to pollute our ocean with devices and equipments that can interfere with the magnetic field, which can interfere with not only shark migration but other migrations such as sea turtles, salmon as well.